because when we were out at the state fair, and it was when, oh my gosh, how's his name? John McCain was the presidential nominee for the Republicans, and the word was Tim was going to be the VP, Tim was going to be the VP. And I saw him the day before the announcement came that it was Sarah Palin, but he was out at the state fair, and I just remember thinking as he walked into the little trailers we have out at the state fair at CARE, how can I possibly think I'm busy? As this man walks in, you're the same way, smiling, hey, all this energy and charisma for everybody. And I'm thinking, that's a little convicting, because I always feel like I'm busy. And I said to him, wow, I just don't know how you do it. And he looked at me and said, Julie, everybody's busy. And it was such a gracious thing to say, because yeah, but not like you're busy, you know? But it was such a wonderful, and that I think defines both of you. You just handled all of it with such grace, and I was so proud of you. I was so proud you guys were from Minnesota, and I don't know if you could feel that, if you knew that all of us were like, there are folks out there on the trail. We really were.
That is really nice. That is very, very nice to hear. It's, you know, it's hard to know. It's hard to take the pulse of people. I mean, there's polling and there's information, and you don't really know. And so it's hard to know even anecdotally, because you'll meet people along the way. I mean, I was amazed by sort of the depth and breadth of the human experience on the, and I'm talking now about most recently with his presidential campaign. There were people on the one end who I was sort of alarmed and disappointed by, but I mean, that's politics. But also on the other end of the spectrum, people who were fiercely loyal and went above and beyond the call of duty and were just so kind and so helpful. And you know, I take a lot from that whole experience. I think it was worthwhile. It obviously didn't last quite as long as Tim would have liked it to. But I think things are meant to be, and I am really okay. I'm really okay with not still being in the mix of all of that at the moment. It really is. It's all is well.
You know, that's a great attitude, because a lot of people will hang on to things, and it'll be like, why? Now, do you guys, is faith a big part of that for you as a family, or are you just by nature someone who can kind of see the cup half full and you move on?
Well, and it's probably a blend. You're absolutely right. There's no question that faith is a significant component to that, because if you don't have an open hands approach about whether you're going to, you know, win or lose a campaign, but you fill in the blank with so much of all of our lives. You know, you don't really know. You don't know what the next day is going to bring, much less what will your career transition be, how will your children turn out, where will they go to school. You know, so many unknowns, and you have to have an open hands approach to it. I mean, yeah, Tim looks back a bit at the campaign now and thinks, you know, we can see now everyone got these little bumps along the way. You know, there was the meteoric rise of, you know, Michelle Bachmann, and then there was Herman Cain, and then there was, you know, this guy and that guy, and you know, so he kind of thinks, oh, you know, there might have been a moment, and I think, well, so I mean, if it's just one moment, is that
it's got to be so hard, because you give so much. And this is not a political show. We're not saying we endorse one party over the other, but if you are a candidate for the presidency of the United States, it demands every moment you have. What is that like? I mean, I always wonder when I see these people on the campaign trail, like, do they just wake up in the morning and go, ugh? Because it's the same speeches, and it's meeting people, and you're always giving of yourself, giving.
It's rough and tumble, too.
Yeah.
Well, and there's no doubt, really, and I have come to know this about politicians generally. You have to love it. You have to want it. You have to love people. You have to love public policy. You have to live and breathe it in a way that when you describe when you wake up in the morning, if there is a moment where you wake up and don't have a sense of joy and purpose and enthusiasm about it, you shouldn't be running. And so Tim, obviously, I mean, he loves public policy. He loves meeting people. I will say there is a certain extra sense of joy, especially in the retail politics, the grassroots stuff. He loved that in New Hampshire and in Iowa.
Okay.
And that brought him great joy.
Okay.
It's true, and it's fun. And that part of it, I actually really think that's the good stuff, because at the grassroots level, and just as you're describing, regardless of the political party, people who are really caring and interested in the issues and wanting to try to discern who do they want to vote for. So.
What would you say is the downside? It's probably hard to pick just one, because it's so much of your life wrapped up into it. And
you know, there's no doubt, and this is true whether it was the presidential campaign or throughout his time as governor or all his years in the state legislature. The reality is that it is a time commitment that it does defy description. Really, you'd have to have a family situation where everyone in the family can embrace it and be okay with that, because you have to be okay with it, because you can't tell a governor in the middle of, a flood, or he has to, Tim went and visited our soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. He and I both went to Bosnia and Kosovo, and we were on trade missions. And there's just a lot that you need to give yourself to that job, because you owe it to the people who put you in that job. And if your family's not good with that, it's a problem. So I just think, the downside is that you don't have that person in the same way, kind of a 9 to 5 type of husband might be. But Tim is never wired like that to begin with. I mean, he's not a 9 to 5 kind of guy. So,
right. And your kids, how do they handle that? That's a lot of pressure and spotlight on them, and they have to share mom and dad.
Both of them, I think part of it was that we had kept our house in Egan, so they kept a lot of the same friends, same sports, that kind of thing. They had a series of loving adults, friends who really rallied around them, and we tried very hard to make it clear it wasn't about them. It didn't define who they were as girls, as young women, and I like to think that stuck for the most part. They know that their life is not defined by who their daddy is or was, or any of that. So we tried very hard.